To welcome and thank Claire Marie Cuthbert for taking part in today's COVID Conundrum discussions. Claire is the CEO of the Evolve Trust in Mansfield, a leader with over 15 years of experience working in the country's most challenging schools, both primary and secondary contexts. Graduating from Sunderland University with a first-class honours degree in education, Claire began her teaching career on Teesside before she became a troubleshooter for failing schools across the country and an advisor to the DfE and QCDA on innovative curriculum models and personalised pathways. Also working with Ofsted, Claire has over a decade's worth of inspection experience. A multi-award winner with numerous accolades for her work, one very special one last year, including Female CEO of the Year 2019, an EMWA award, as well as a Guest International Award for outstanding contributions to education. I've met Claire. She, powerful resume, an impressive resume, and an impressive lady, if I might say so. And one thing I'd like to just start with, when you kindly showed me around your lovely schools a few years ago, I remember getting on a train on the way home, speaking to a colleague, and I said, "How was it?" And I said, it was, from the immediate moment I was picked up from the station, the energy, your zest, your bubbliness, your passion for your schools, your children, and your staff, and what a great bunch they were. With all of that energy and zest for life, how have you personally managed to contain it or direct it during lockdown? I'd be really interested to find out.
That's a really, really good question. I think if you were to ask my executive team, they would say it's probably not contained. It kind of spills over. I think it's important to know that actually my schools haven't been closed over this period. They just haven't. And there's a lot of noise coming from the government around schools reopening. Actually, my schools haven't been closed. We've been open throughout lockdown. We've been open over the holiday period as well. And during half term, we've been open to key workers and vulnerable children. As you can see, I'm actually in school at the moment. Bramble Academy, it's opened its doors on Monday to reception and Year 6 children.
Okay, so you've been super busy anyway, as I'd expect.
Just a tad.
Just a tad. When schools went into lockdown, one of the things, again, when I show around your schools, and when I met with your staff as well, you've got a very cohesive bunch. The Get on the Evolve bus, really resonated with me.
Yeah.
Do you think when the schools closed, that made it easier for your pupils and your staff?
I think it came as a bit of a shock to us. I will be honest. COVID sort of crept up on us a little bit. Before Boris Johnson announced the lockdown, we were already creaking quite significantly as an organisation in terms of the number of staff that had fallen ill or were shielding or were staying at home. So we had, in Bramble in particular, which is the primary school where I'm at the moment, I only had 2 members of staff. Everybody else was off. And then we were really struggling to kind of get supply staff. The supply agencies were saying we ran out of teachers. And we were putting classes together. I was teaching, Carl was teaching. It was really busy. But again, it's a testament to my team that they're willing to kind of roll their sleeves up and get stuck in. In terms of when lockdown actually was announced, my initial thoughts were that actually we'll be back at school after Easter. That's what I kind of was hoping would.
I think everyone did, yeah.
Yeah, and that didn't happen, but we had to quickly sort of rally together. It was a really sad day actually when he announced that lockdown was started. I had parents who were collecting their children, and they were crying because they didn't know when they were going to be back at school again. Certainly working in a disadvantaged community, we're very community orientated, and a lot of our parents look to us for help, support and guidance. I certainly remember standing in Aldi in Mansfield with some of my exec team, actually getting trolleys full of food for our families. And this was during a point when people were kind of like hoarding and stockpiling. But again, we went out, we delivered food parcels to our families. We also delivered kind of like Easter eggs and things to kind of like our most needy families. But we've also had the issue of how we educate our children during this time as well. And that has been really challenging in terms of how we do that. And we've had to kind of get up to speed quite quickly with ICT, online learning platforms, but also there's a big divide between those that have and those that have not. So at my secondary school, for example, a lot of the children do have access to the internet, or they have smartphones, and therefore it's quite easy for them to be able to access online learning. Whereas at my special school and at my primary, it's not so easy. And again, you've got to be really creative around how you educate the children. We have kept in touch with our children that are not in the key worker and vulnerable category, almost on a daily basis. Their teacher will give them a phone call, check they're okay. Work packages have been sent home. Parents have been incredibly supportive of the work that we've been doing, but it's been challenging. And as the longer the time has gone on, the more challenging it's become, especially at the secondary end of things. I'm going to be really honest, and year 10 seemed to have almost kind of lost enthusiasm, shall we say, for online learning. And, there are daily calls to year 10, why you're not online, why you're not accessing today's lesson. And for some of them, there will be significant learning gains that will need to be made up. Again, the special school provides another layer of complication in the fact that parents have taken almost 10 weeks to get children out of the routine of being into school. And now that we're in a position to bring them back for the last 5 weeks, some of the parents don't want to do that because they feel that actually might not be the best thing for their learning needs. So it's been a conundrum. So I'm sure that there are people that are listening to this that have got all the answers, but we've had to kind of muddle through as best as we possibly can, and making sure that children are at the heart of our decision making.
Yeah, I think the whole culture shock of going back to work, going back to school, even for us, when we've had that time at home and you maybe had an extra hour in bed, or you haven't had to get on the train or get in the car. And I know you live locally, or stay locally but live far away. All those sorts of things. I think children are going to experience that. We're experiencing that. And one of the things that we noticed in our community of teachers, right from I suppose when schools closed, where the youngest teachers actually were quite quick to self-isolate, but they seem to have been also the ones that probably lived on their own, probably are, maybe in a multi-occupancy house, and probably the ones who have struggled the most during this time. Have you had to deal with the mental well-being and health of your teachers as well as your students?
Yeah, and again, we've had to do when it comes to reopening, we've had to do that very, very staged. And we've had to do what's right by our community, what's right by our staff, what's right by our children. So, Boris did very kindly announce that he wanted us to reopen to reception 1 and 6. We've not been able to do that because actually it's not been right for my staff and it's not been right for my kids. So we began with reception and 6. We're looking to bring back year 1 from Monday. But my teachers have been kept fully in the loop of what's happening, of what's been happening. But also my teachers haven't been off. They've been rotated in for key workers. So one of the things that they have seen is the transformation that's happened in the building. And it is really sad. I know that you've been to some of my schools and they're quite immersive learning environments, and my staff spend a long time kind of prepping their classrooms and they're all very beautiful. But that is not the case now. We have a lot of yellow tape everywhere. We have socially distanced desks. There are plastic boxes on each of the children's desks that contains their own materials, and it's not education as you would previously know it. So things like art, DT, science that previously have been very experiential and hands-on, you have to think of different ways to do that. So things that we take for granted, such as pair work or group work, you can't actually do because of social distancing rules. And again, it takes quite a bit of time to get your head around that. And we have had support from our trustees who, some of them are kind of like quite health and safety geeks. So they've been really helpful in preparing my staff for coming back to work. But yeah, we have a full complement of staff that are in the building now.
Fantastic. Well, going back to you saying about the learning gaps, I mean, obviously the logistical issues of distancing, and I really feel for schools because the social capital that children build up by being collaborative and working together is a big part of schooling.
Yeah, I completely agree. We spent a year here at Bramble almost telling children that to have caring hands and that you should share. Saying please don't touch each other. My head of year 1, my head of early years is telling my lovely reception children to walk around as if they have a giant umbrella on their head, so they don't kind of like bump into each other or touch each other. We've spent an entire year talking about sharing's caring, and it's nice to have friends, and you use nice words, and now we're saying please don't touch each other. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting landscape.
Yeah, I can imagine, and you know, I feel for children with that social connection, but also the learning gaps, and something I've spoken to a few about, saying the distancing and the logistical issues will disappear in time. The learning gaps may take a very long time to iron out. Exam results for several years, social mobility in the future. What do you think? And I'm just thinking out loud, what can be done to kind of bridge that gap quickly, or what can the government do? What could really help?
I think it's important that there isn't going to be a quick fix for this. There just isn't. You know, children at the moment have had 10, 12 weeks out of school, especially those from disadvantaged backgrounds, whilst we've done our best to kind of engage with those, and you know, we've sent work home, or there's online learning, and we've done home visits and those sorts of things. There are still some very hard to reach families, and with social distancing rules in place, it's very difficult that we're not able to kind of offer one-to-one tuition. In terms of what I think that the government can do, I think that they need to be really brave and bold and rethink and reimagine what education could be. You know, COVID has provided us with lots and lots of challenges, but also I do think that this is an opportunity to rethink what education could be and about what is important. Is it important that children that are 10 years old and 5 years old in the key stage 1 SAT, is that important that they need to be pushed down that formalised route? Is it really important that children that are 15 years old need to be sitting that number, that suite of quite restrictive formal qualifications? Is that what's important, or actually are other things more important in this kind of changing landscape? And I am worried for my year 10 children, my 10 going into year 11. I also worry about my year 6s starting year 7. I've got a daughter of my own. She's actually in year 6, and it terrifies me about her starting big school without that transition. So yeah, we have to be really creative around that. I really hope that there is a sensible and mature discussion around what education could be. And I think that there's a really good opportunity for us to learn from some of the things that COVID has given us. I think there's some really good practice out there around ICT and learning, and that maybe we can be a lot more personalised, maybe do kind of some quite blended types of learning for our students. But also, what is the formalised exam testing children? What is it kind of assessing? Is it just acquisition of knowledge? Is it acquisition of skills? And actually, which of those is more important? Or are they both mutually important? And if so, then actually I think we need to have a very sensible discussion around assessment and formal qualifications. That's what I would really like them to do. I'd like them to take a long, hard look at what education could be. I think it presents us with a really fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, I think speaking to heads and CEOs as I have, many are thinking the same, that there is an opportunity. I suppose on that, I know you as very forward thinking. I know when you asked me to speak at your national education conference a couple of years ago, and I said, yeah, fine, what's the topic? Class of 2035.
Yeah.
So not many people think that far ahead, and you think that far ahead. If just finally, I suppose, if one thing came out of COVID, what would you bring forward from the future and say, right, okay, let's just, would it just be removing of the standards agenda? Would it be trying to make a more rounded individual? What would be the material catalyst for change you would implement?
I would love, one of the things that I would absolutely love and wish for young people is for them to almost really reflect on what it means to be human. And I think that there is a real challenge at the moment that nobody seems to be kind of like grasping the nettle with. And one of the things that sort of keeps me awake at night is children's being servants to technology and not masters. And they consume huge amounts of information. In one way, that's a really, really good thing. But in another way, it's how do we teach our children how to filter that? And we have seen, haven't we, the dangers of not being able to filter these huge amounts of information. So, you just need to have a look at what's happened in the States. You need to have a look at what's happened with Brexit in our own country. And actually, I think that is so important. And I think also we need to kind of go back and look at what is important. Knowledge is great. I think knowledge is absolutely fantastic, but knowledge in a vacuum is no good to anybody. As I said previously, I have a daughter. She's bright as a button, but very often would ask Siri or Alexa to do her homework for her. Alexa, what's 7 times 6? Or Alexa, what's the square root of? And actually, what I really want for her is I want her to be able to apply knowledge and the premise of knowledge in different contexts and situations. And I want it to be very, very rounded. And again, go back to what it means to be human. And I think in the future, that's going to be really important, the human touch, and you will pay a premium for that. But we need to really, as educators, we need to grasp the nettle with this, because education hasn't changed since the industrial age, and to continue to do what we've always done, we'll get what we've always got, and actually it's not good enough. So I'll get off my little box now.
Do you know, absolutely perfect. And I know a similar theme when I did come up in the talk, and it was schools need to undertake technical change and pupils do not undergo it, and everybody just seems to be swamped with it. But I just, as always, I love talking to
Thank you.
Your energy, your attitude is contagious and infectious. And I can't wait to get this discussion out online, because I'm sure so many are going to get so much from it. But I'd just like to, once again, Claire, just say absolutely thank you for this. Inspiring.
Oh, thank you, Dean.